Good day. Today I will be going to have a video report about the speech of President Corazon Aquino before the US Congress. In September 1986, when former President Corazon Aquino addressed a joint session of the United States Congress, her trip to the United States was her first since the tyrant Ferdinand Marcos was overthrown in February of the same year, and the Philippines was still recovering from the damage his regime had caused. And in the introduction of her speech, he mentioned that her death of her husband Ninoy Aquino. That minutes after the plane that touched down, Aquino was killed by an assassin bullet. So Cory Aquino left America to bury her husband. Number one highlights of her speech. In her introduction, she says after 3 years that he left America in grief to bury her husband, Ninoy Aquino, he thought that he left also to lay rest in his restless dream of Philippine freedom. Today, I have returned as a president of free people, she added. After the death of her husband, Ninoy Aquino, President Corazon says Ninoy became the pleasing sacrifice that answered prayers for freedom. They had lost him twice. Ninoy was returned to Fort Bonifacio on August 27, 1973, where he appeared before a military tribunal of allegation of murder, illegal possession of firearms, and subversion. In a military camp in the north, they imprisoned him in a tiny, virtually airless cell. He was stripped naked, and the prospect of unexpected midnight execution was placed over his head. Ninoy was preserved valiantly through it all. The authorities withheld his family's knowledge of what had happened for him for 43 days. Corazon Aquino added on her speech, "Still we fought for honor, and if only for honor we shall pay. She emphasized that the fight they started was not wasted and it was not a nonsense one. That day the Filipinos put a good fight against the administration of Marcos. Number 2. Even though there was a serious allegations of election fraud, new parliamentary elections were held in May 1984, and opposition parties claimed the 58 of the 183 seats that were up for grabs. All of the opposition party candidates had received Corazon public support. Amidst intense domestic and U.S. criticism for his handling of an escalating communist insurgency and dire economic situation, Marcos recently called for a snap on early presidential elections. Despite of lack of experience of Corazon, Aquino said she would consider running against Marcos if 1 million signatures were amassed, urging her to enter the race. The final outcome was the election of Mr. Salvador Laurel as Vice President and Mrs. Corazon Aquino as President of the Philippines. And yet, not once did Aquino consider imposing martial law in the face of all these significant difficulties. Her steadfast dedication to the democratic process. It also the more impressive one, considered that in addition battling off armed rebels, she also had to cope with fragmented cabinet, protracted internal uprising, and insidious issues like a bankrupt economy, corruption, and poverty, and the wreckage left behind by the Marcos government. In number 3, the foreign debt, $26 billion in total foreign debt. The communist that grew throughout the Marcos era that she added the people was not benefited from it. The former President Aquino's speech provides us the insights into the Filipino people's struggle for freedom and how acts of steadfast resistance have influenced the present Filipino revolutionaries. Additionally, it clarifies what actually occurred when Ninoy Aquino was the president. The challenges the Aquinos underwent to the aid Philippines in achieving freedom are detailed. The debt committed by the previous administration preceding Cory Aquino was also noted in the text. This speech also demonstrates that the transition from a dictatorship to a democratic system of government, down to its president laws, order, and regulation. The document also discussed Ninoy Aquino murder and the dread of torture and imprisonment during the martial law. It demonstrates the challenge Cory faced as soon as she assumed the office of the president.